Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I'm going to be talking about my current top 10 favorite knives under $50. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know the last few weekends I've been doing my favorite knives by price range. So I started at 300 and went down and down and down and down. And we finally reached the budget category. Now, I've done many videos in the past of my top 10, top 15, top 20 favorite budget knives of all time. But the knife world is constantly changing, and the budget world is constantly being pushed to its limits. Sometimes there's really interesting stuff that comes out, and like, yeah, it's a good, bang for your buck in terms of materials, but the overall design doesn't quite do it for me sometimes. So the nice thing is on this list, everything here is number one, consistently available. So there will be links down in the description. Number two, it's a combination of good bang for your buck in terms of materials and an overall good design, which means there's some older stuff on this list and some newer stuff on this list. Now, there's probably 50 knives that could have been on this list, but I went through everything that I have reviewed because, again, it has to actually be based on something I reviewed on this channel. I'm not going to recommend something that I haven't actually handled, right? And I honestly chose the stuff that I think is the best in, right now. Before the year ends, I will do a much larger list of everything that I've handled that I think is great, so I can include some of the things you guys feel like I probably obviously left out, but keep all that in mind. Again, this is just based on my opinion. Thanks so much for my generous patrons, for supporting me right now. You can check out my Patreon in the description. All right, let's get started with an honorable mention here, because I'm sure you guys are like, what's the link? How old is this video? The Kershaw Link is a great knife. It's been around for a long time, 420HC. I think they're aluminum bodies. You can get them for about 40 bucks. It's a great knife. It's an assisted knife. I have moved on from my taste for assisted knives. I understand some people like them. I think that the assisted feature in today's knife world is basically trivial. It's not something that we need anymore because the detents on flippers have been figured out, whether it's a flipper or thumb stud. We just don't need the assist anymore. The assist is essentially an extra part that can break, and we've seen that before. Now, it's not likely. It's just an extra part that's unneeded. This has been perfected, and it's just, this is a great knife. I wanted to at least include it as an honorable mention because people always mention it, and I've handled it. It's a great knife. It's not officially part of the top 10, but I figured I'd squeeze it in here. All right, moving on to the beginning of the official top 10 under 50. Wow, this thing came out of nowhere. I recently reviewed this. This is the Kuby KB 237. Kuby knives, they really do some excellent work in the budget category, and I think a lot of their stuff is pretty underrated. This knife is, I can't call it underrated because it's really new, but this is really nice. We have on the blade, the finish, I guess, it kind of resembles bead blasting, but it's more like a high quality. I'm not going to call it vapor blasting. It's just different. It's like a really, really fine-grained tumbling. Looks nice, kind of cloudy and overcast throughout the blade. It's got a really nice, consistent, slight reflectivity about it. This really nice, I guess more of a Japanese Tanto style blade. It's kind of a combination between American Tanto and Japanese Tanto. We have belly on both the main cutting edge, the long part of the cutting edge, and then up there on the Tanto tip, we have a little bit of belly as well, which is what makes me think of the Japanese Tanto. It's about 130 thousandths on the spine. No sharp edges anywhere other than the cutting edge, which is really nice to see. We have a forward choil. We've got a little harpoon notch. Excellent flipper tab. Excellent flipping action. We've got G10 that is nicely chamfered all the way around despite it looking a little bit angular. Super minimal hardware. Like almost nothing. Deep carry pocket clip. You can't see it. It's on the other side. And countersunk stainless steel liners. It's a liner lock and it runs on bearings. This thing is excellent. These come in somewhere around 35 bucks, maybe up to 40, something like that. Like I said, link in the description. I just reviewed this knife. Wonderful, wonderful knife from Kuby. Moving on here, of course, the CJRB Centros. This is a Dylan Mallory design, and again, we're looking at a lot of the same materials in the Kuby. It's more of a longer, slender profile. It's a little bit thick in the scales. Not anything I'd call super thick. It's not Medford thick or anything like that. Wonderful blade profile. This is a thumb stud opener on bearings, which is not something that you see in general, and it's much appreciated. I've come to really enjoy thumb stud openers with properly tuned detents on bearings, and I feel like, while we're seeing more now, we're still not seeing enough. These are great. It's easier to carry in the pocket versus a knife that has a flipper tab, even if it is a little bit thick. What they've done with the materials though is really good. I mean, the quality all the way around in this guy, again, these are like $37 or something like that. It's so hard. I mean, a lot of these knives, guys, are knives. I mean, I'm a knife enthusiast, and I regularly collect knives that are well over $500. Yeah, I like that stuff. But I also like my budget knives. Definitely. There are just some situations in my life where I'm like, I kind of would just rather carry a less expensive knife, because maybe I'm more likely to break it. I'm more likely to lose it, something like that. That doesn't mean expensive knives aren't justified. I know people like to jump in and be like, that's why you never spend so much. You buy what you want. But these are also great knives to give as gifts to people who are just starting to get into the knife world, right? Because there's a lot of crap out there that you can buy in this price range. And fortunately, there's a lot of good stuff, right? This is just my opinion on the best of the best. Fantastic knife to either purchase for yourself or give as a gift, the CJRB Centros. Moving on here, of course, the Bestech Texel. This is not a new knife. It's just a really, really good knife. I like the different colors that they offer them in. The orange, the yellow, and the sort of natural jade is different. We always see the typical tan and OD green. I'm sick of that. I always like that we see, a black G10 variant, but I like to see them mix it up with colors, and that's what they've done here. This nice, I guess, call it a sheep's foot. Some people are going to call it a Wharncliffe. It looks like a sheep's foot to me. No, that's not a proprietary pivot. It's got what looks like a spanner head on the other side, or on the show side, but on the other side it's a regular Torx head. Simple liner lock, nice, not quite contoured G10 scales, but heavy chamfering. Fits in the hand nicely. I think this knife comes in at about 7 3/4 inches overall. Just a nice EDC size knife. And Bestech, for anybody who doesn't know, has excellent overall quality, excellent fit and finish. Their flipping action, the detents are tuned properly. Bestech has a lot of stuff that's kind of like above and beyond in terms of the aesthetics. And, like I said, the materials are great, right? It looks interesting, but when it comes down to function, it's just, some of their stuff is just not comfortable, right? In this case, in terms of the Texel, the ergonomic lines are perfect. The cutting geometry is great. The size is great. Fit and finish is great. It's just excellent. I cheated a little bit here. And here's the deal. This is why I'm going to allow it in this category. I mean, number one, it's my channel, so I'm going to do it if I want to. But this is a $52 knife. In very few circumstances is somebody going to change their decision between a $50 knife and a $52. Like, if you're watching this video right now, you're like, I want a knife that's 50 or less. In very few circumstances is somebody going to say no to a knife on this list that's very appealing but costs $2 more than whatever their maximum limit was, right? So if your max limit was 50 and this is 52, it's worth the extra $2, right? Okay, yeah, I'm cheating, but whatever. Moving on here, the Spyderco Tenacious. I just recently handled the lightweight version. You can get both the lightweight and the standard G10 variant for about $45 in most places. These come in a wide variety of different colors and flavors, right? Whether you go with the lightweight or the G10, it doesn't really matter. I like the G10 more, but it's going to be heavier. Lightweight one is going to be just as durable and weigh a little bit less. Yes, these still come in ACR 13 MOV. In my opinion, the steel in this case, in this price range, is almost trivial. I mean, obviously, you don't want 420J on your knives. But, if we're looking at AUS8, we're looking at D2, you're looking at 9CR 18 MOV, you're looking at ACR 13 MOV, 12C27N or whatever. I mean, maybe that's not a budget knife steel. I always get that and 14C28N mixed up. And maybe I'm not even getting the letters and numbers correctly, or correct. But in any case, the Spyderco Tenacious is probably the best entry Spyderco for somebody trying to get into Spyderco knives. The geometry of that leaf-shaped blade is what makes up for what anybody might consider, to be lacking in ACR 13 MOV steel. It's just a really good cutting geometry. And you know what? If the edge doesn't last very long, so what? You can sharpen it up. It's still a stainless steel. Yeah, I'm right about that. ACR 13 still stainless. Construction is basic, but it's good, right? These don't always come perfectly centered, but my experience with this knife is just a wonderful tool. This is a great throw it around, use it. It's going to cut continuously. And that spider hole, again, you know, it's kind of an exclusive thing to Spyderco, that perfectly shaped hole, and then the leaf-shaped blade with the little ramp on the back. It makes the blade a little bit taller, so it makes accessibility to that hole, whether you're using your thumb or your middle finger, much, much, much easier than a blade with a slender profile and a different shape, right? And I think that, you know, that's why Spyderco is so protective over it. It's just a wonderful example of a Spyderco knife, and for me, it was the gateway Spyderco, and despite it being really old, yeah, I honestly still think it's one of the best budget knives out there. You know, that's okay if you disagree with me, and a lot of people are like, I only want to see new stuff. Well, I make lists based on the things that I actually think are the best, not just because they're new. I've got different videos for that. This, I honestly still think, is one of the best budget knives out there. Moving on here, the Civivi Backlash. This is, I understand you guys really want to see the shredder probably on this list. I like the shredder, and if I made a top 20, or God forbid a top 50, that'd be way too long, but if I made a top 20, the shredder would be on here. The other problem with the shredder is it's just not consistently available right now. That was a really popular knife, right? The shredder honestly bothered me just a little bit for something most people are going to consider trivial. The slot where you do the reverse flick, it wasn't knocked down very much, and every time I did it, it would shred a chunk of my fingernail off, which is funny. That's what I think of when I hear shredder. I'm like, oh yeah, it's that knife that shreds my fingernail. That's not a functional defect. That's just a little nitpicky thing. The shredder's a great knife. It's not on this list because it's not consistently available. The Backlash, however, is very similar to the shredder, other than it not having the opening hole, which is fine. I don't care. I mean, that extra opening mechanism is trivial in terms of utility, right? Unless you just absolutely have to have that to open your knife. This is a flipper tab that's tuned properly. It's got a nice ramp back there for your thumb. It's got a nice ergonomic handle that does not, you know, fix you into one place. It doesn't force you to conform to the handle. You can kind of move around. Excellent cutting geometry, as is usually the case with Civivi. I believe these are 9CR18 MOV, which again I think is perfectly acceptable. I can never remember, you know, Civivi transitioned at some point from 9CR18 MOV being primary and D2 being secondary. Now it's like D2 is primary and 9CR18 MOV is secondary, or maybe they've made a full transition. In any case, either steel is acceptable. The build quality of this is excellent. T8 screws throughout. It's got the steel liners. This is just a wonderful, wonderful knife. And the Backlash, again, I'm cheating just a little bit because I think these come in at about 51. Most people, you know, if you're wondering, like, oh, my limit's 50, is it worth spending an extra $1 on the back? Yeah, it's worth spending an extra $1. That's just my opinion. Moving on here, another hyper underrated knife that has made many top 10 lists on my channel, the Bestech Lion. I don't know why this knife is not more popular. This is such a wonderful knife. It's got contour G10 scales with a steel liner underneath. A lot of people might say the handle's a tad thick. To me, it's trivial. I don't think the liners are milled out on this thing, which makes it a tad heavy. Depends on what you define as heavy. I would call this a medium weight knife. Heavy to me is anything over 7 ounces. Everything under 4 ounces to me is light, right? Anything in between is heavy. Medium. Jeez, mix that up. The blade profile is excellent. It's D2 steel. Again, it has that sort of spanner-looking front show side pivot, but on the other side is a regular torque, so you can adjust it. It's got a backspacer that doubles as a glass breaker, but what's cool is you can take that out, and what's underneath are regular standoffs. So you don't like that look, or you don't want that excess hanging off the butt of the knife, just take it out. You've just got regular pillar construction underneath. Excellent flipping action, excellent access to the liner lock, easy carry. It's about 8 inches overall, so think Benchmade Griptilian, Ritter Hogue size knife. Really, really good coming in. Again, I'm cheating here just a little bit, $52. Very competitive. I don't know why this knife is not more popular. I have tried to sing its praises for a long time, and I just really, really like this knife. Moving on here, of course, this is, again, it's not a new knife, but I've had so much experience with this thing. I've thrown it around, and it just stands up to everything. The cold steel Toughlite. You could toss some mini Toughlite in here too if you wanted to, but essentially this is a budget utility triad lock knife. This thing is as tough as the name suggests, and it is also very lightweight. The lines on the handle do fix you into one spot, but it's really the only spot, the only way to hold this knife. I mean, you can kind of adjust your index finger depending on what type of cut you're making. This thing is the ultimate, like, lightweight, you know, budget, hard use miniature folding knife. And Most of the time I find that whatever it is that I'm doing outside, if I need a tool that I can really throw around, right, no matter what it is that I'm cutting, I just really don't need much longer of a blade than this. The shape, you know, the drop on the nose, this little Wharncliffe blade is just perfect for draw cuts or just quick cuts into something. It's made out of Aus-8, but it is wonderfully easy to sharpen. And a knife like this that I'm really going to take out and beat on, drag it across the top of a shingle, or, you know, cut into stuff that you know, a knife other than an actual like utility cutter, you know, would probably be better for. And a lot of arguments can be made like, well, if you're going to cut shingles, then you need to use a hook blade, or, you know, why would you use that when you can use a utility, you know, a little razor cutter? Well, my argument is yeah, in a lot of cases, you know, you could argue for time efficiency, right? But you will definitely spend more money in those, you know, replaceable hook blades, those replaceable little razor blades over time. I mean, in fact, you'll spend, if you use those constantly, you'll spend hundreds of dollars on those things. The time it takes for me to resharpen this Toughlite, this knife is about 30 bucks, by the way. The time it takes for me to resharpen or even like reprofile this thing if it gets destroyed, it's like nothing. It takes like 30 minutes to redo this thing. I think this is a better use of your money if you have the resources to sharpen your knife, but there's nothing wrong with going with a utility box cutter as well. This is also much easier to carry as an EDC knife. Those utility cutters, those fat things, even if you get the little folder ones, this, to me, I mean, you could make a million arguments on either side, and I'm sure people will make the arguments. This makes more sense. I like that I can disassemble and clean this a little bit easier, and I love that it has the triad lock. It is unquestionably more durable than knives like that. Yeah, love this knife. Absolutely recommendable. Moving on here. This one I just barely cheated because I'm finding the least expensive version of the Civivi Elementum. And I know I included it on last week's video, Best Knives Under 100, but that was the marble carbon fiber version, which cost more money because of the scale. This standard G10 variant, the least expensive version that I could find, was right at about $50. It was like $50.67, right? Again, 67 cents shouldn't keep you from making this type of decision. This is definitely one of Civivi's best knives. I love the shadow boxing on the scales. Of course, I love the T8 hardware. I love the size of this thing at about 7.5 inches, something like that. 3.3, 3.4 inches of blade, D2 steel, wonderful cutting geometry. Simple drop point blade. It's got a very nice, it's got a very friendly handle shape, meaning it's not locking you into any one specific spot, but you're going to be somewhat limited on handle room unless you've got smaller hands. Jimping is all in the right place. Access to the lock bar is great. The construction is very durable. Runs on bearings. Great flipping action. I mean, everything you can say about every other Civivi knife out there. This is a winner. If you've never handled this knife, it's excellent. It's also, again, like pretty much everything else on this list, it's an excellent knife to give as a gift, you know, when you're trying to give a good example to somebody who's new in the knife world. Moving on here, this is probably my favorite Civivi still of all time. Again, not necessarily a newer knife. The Civivi Praxis, very much, if you've looked at the Spyderco Shaman and you're like, I like that, but I don't want to pay 200 bucks for it, right? And I'd really like if it was a flipper. And maybe it was a little thinner behind the edge. That's the Civivi Praxis, friends. That is exactly what this is. It has a better cutting geometry, a very similar handle. It's a flipper, and it costs way less money. This thing actually comes in now at, I'm checking my notes, $42, something like that, $43. This is a no-brainer. It's 9CR18 MOV. Again, D2, 9CR18, whatever. This thing is just ready. This is a box destroyer. It's one of my most preferable knives. I actually still own this knife. It's one of my most preferable knives when it comes to breaking down boxes in my garage, which actually the boxes from all the subscription stuff that we've gotten, a lot of you probably have too, they stack up, and I break them down, and I actually use it. I use that as an opportunity to test some of my blades. I know it's not very extensive testing, but it helps me get things done, and at the same time get experience with different types of steel, and gives me an excuse to resharpen things and learn from that point of view as well, because I'm still kind of a novice sharpener. But anyways, yeah, excellent. Easy to disassemble, easy access to the lock bar, no double clutch. It's fun to play with. It's very ergonomic. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. All right, I saved this last one for last because this is the king right now, in my opinion. This is the absolute king of the budget knife world, and I handled and reviewed this knife a few weeks ago, and it is just, I've thought about it, and it's undeniably, in my opinion, the greatest budget knife that exists, and that is the CJRB feldspar, specifically the full size. I have not handled the smaller one. This knife comes in at $35. It is a full-size knife. It looks like, the picture might make it seem like it's a smaller knife. No, this is a full-size knife. It's about the same size as the Benchmade Griptilian. Another Dylan Mallory design. We have fully contoured G10 scales that come in a bunch of different flavors here. In this case, actually, I find that the pivot collar on this CJRB matches well with all the different colors that they offer. CJRB and Artisan Color do this weird thing where they have the pivot collars, and it's like the same color throughout the model line, and then they throw a bunch of different random colors on the G10 scales, and it doesn't always match. In this case, that coppery sort of rose gold color on the pivot collar actually contrasts pretty well with all the different colors that they've got here. Black, you've got the pond scum, or the the jade, which is actually my favorite. The gray, and then you've got this sort of dark, almost looks like brown micarta. Just wonderful. The blade shape is very usable. It's a thumb stud opener on bearings. The carry profile is excellent. It's countersunk steel liners, which is great in terms of weight reduction and also thickness reduction, especially considering, you know, the Centros is also an excellent offering from CJRB. Comes in about the same price, but it's a little bit thicker. This just solves a lot of problems that are present in a lot of different budget world knives. Literally the only thing that I can really nitpick on this guy, like in the review, I was like, well, it's still using T6, but okay. And the pocket clip has that little bill on it. That was it. And those are nitpicks. That's not even something you should consider at this price range. $37. This is crazy. This is such a good knife. If you have not experienced this yet, and you are even remotely interested in budget knives, or you just have somebody that you could give a great gift to, the feldspar is an absolute home run. Watch my review on it. I lost it for this knife. This is wonderful. And actually, I've really come to enjoy conversations with Dylan Mallory on Instagram. He's a nice guy, and he's got an eye for this kind of stuff. He's got, he's got a good head for design, and his designs just make sense. I feel like Dylan Mallory is going to keep knocking it out of the park for Artisan Cutlery and CJRB, which are actually the same company. At least, well, I don't work for them. I don't speak factually about their company. I'm just saying, from my perspective, you know, it seems to be that CJRB is essentially the budget line for Artisan Cutlery, and they are affiliated with each other either by, you know, them being all the same company or two separate companies that are under the same umbrella or something like that. I don't know. But it's kind of like how Civivi is to We, for anybody who doesn't know. And most people know. I'm rambling about something that most people are already aware of. But yeah, this is an excellent knife. And right now, yeah, I think this is absolutely the king of the budget world. If you're watching this 4 years in the future, you know, check the date on the video. Might be different now, but this is the king right now. All right, bonus knife. Here's why the rat is not in this video. This is my image from a long time ago. This was my king forever. And even up to the Civivi Praxis, I was like, well, the Praxis I feel like is a better knife, but man, the rat, I've had so much experience with it. It's such an excellent tool, and it still is. What's weird is right now, the D2 version of the large rat, and I think even a lot of the smaller ones are scarce. I don't know why these are scarce right now. You can still pick up the Osate. I'll still put links down below. You can pick this up, at least an Osate and a couple of D2 variants. These are a little bit scarce right now. That's not why I didn't make the top 10. It's still kind of an honorable mention. It's time to move on. It's time for me to move on from the rat. I still love this knife. It's right here, actually. I've got this. This knife has way too many screws on the body. It is definitely heavy. We've got nylon on the scales, which is fine. It's not that big of a deal. It's not the, you know, smoothest knife in the world. It's not necessarily the easiest knife to open and close, you know. It's got a lot of little things that weren't flaws or weren't considered flaws by the community when it was king. And now, given the options that we have today, looking back at the rat, it's like, it's just a lot of stuff that, you know, isn't quite as good by contrast. Now, the knife is still excellent, though. This is still an excellent tool, and I will still use this knife. The cutting geometry is still great. Ergonomics are still great, right? There's just little things that, you know, different companies with different knives have made so much better. And I've held on to this knife, and I think it's just me being stubborn and, you know, me wanting the rat to still be a competitor. But I honestly think the budget knife world has moved on from the rat. I think its days as king are over. Now, if you still want to pick this knife up, are you going to be happy with it? Yeah. Honestly, at this point, with there being so many better options out there utilizing D2 steel, and D2, actually, its reign as king in the king of the budget knife steels category, I think it's coming to an end as well. So truthfully, I'd say save your money on the D2. I mean, there's actually some reports of their D2 not being heat treated properly. Pick up an AUS 8 version of it for like 30 bucks, you know, and I mean, it's an excellent beater at 30 bucks in AUS 8. And then while it's not going to hold an edge forever, it's all like the Toughlite. You just resharpen it in 30 minutes. It's one of the easiest knives to resharpen. Get the flavor you want, you know, and then just beat on it. I have done crazy things with this knife. I have not stuck the blade in a vise and pulled as hard as I could and found out exactly what angle it'll snap the blade, but I have pride with this thing. You shouldn't pry with a folding knife, but I have in a moment of necessity, right? And yeah, it stands up to it. I've had this thing thrown around, literally thrown across a roof, closed, of course. Don't do that. But yeah, the impact, you know, shock impact, dropping it off of a roof, or, you know, having it slam into something, or the knife jammed into the dirt and getting, you know, the pivot gunked up. It's just, it's made to be used, right? It's a good, simple, durable, dependable cutting tool, but its reign as king in today's knife world, it is no longer. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for my top 10 favorite knives under $50. Now, a lot of people have said, can you continue this series and go up? You know, I started at 300, so I did 250 to 300, then I did 200 to 250, etc. Yeah, I will. Next week, I'll do best knives under 350. So we'll go 300 to 350, and I'll keep going all the way up to about 500. After 500, it gets a little bit trivial because you are far outside of the high-end production knife world, and there's basically no justification that I can give a knife over $500, because at that point you're buying, you know, the handwork, and you're buying, you know, sometimes the maker's name, things like that. But I think there are some really good knives to be had at 500 or less that are somewhat justifiable. So we'll do that. We'll do that next week. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed the series so far. Let me know what knives you would have included on the list. Won't hurt my feelings. There's always a chance I left something out, but just keep in mind, you know, I really would have needed to make this list a top 50 to include everything that's great right now. If you enjoyed this video, or at least found it informative or mildly entertaining, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out, and if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.